We will see.
Linux OTC. Welcome to episode 5. We're your hosts. I'm Bill.
I'm Norbert.
And I'm here.
Right. Because Norbert comes before Leo.
Does he?
That's alphabetical. It's driving me nuts.
We were supposed to do it alphabetically?
I don't know. I might. It's just I don't mention it because it's one of those things where it's how my brain works. Like OTC people, I get called OTC all the time, and it drives me nuts.
Let's just go by last name, and I'll be first.
There you go. That won't work.
Sure it
That means you got to start doing the announcing on this show and...
Welcome to Linux OTC, where we give you your Linux
too bubbly.
over the counter. Too bubbly? Are you kidding? I'm on the show. I'm here. You just get the bubble, man.
So I got to get where you're at?
No. I'm just saying that if I were to do the intro, that's what it would sound like.
It would sound more lively.
I mean, I didn't make.
I just want it to sound like it's coming out of that angry. I about said pigeon.
Stop chatting so much.
Our angry. Why can't I think of it? Penguin.
What would
on the website?
There you go. What would Norbert sound like? Wait. Do you want me to do an angry penguin?
Yeah, do an angry penguin.
It's Linux OTC. I hate fish.
Yeah, you got problems.
I'm a krill kind of bird, okay?
Oh Lord! All right,
all right. Norbert, give me a bubbly.
If it was up to me, the show would be called "It's Linux O'clock Somewhere."
Hey, whoa! I mean,
welcome to "It's Linux O'clock Somewhere." I'm sorry, right. I have a sore throat, so I cannot.
I can tell you're not yourself right now.
Yeah. Well, so what would what would Linux OTC? What if you were going to intro? What would it sound like?
Well, I look at Lenny. His name's Lenny, by the way. I look at Lenny and I think you guys come here to talk about Linux.
I see.
Linux and all things open source. You think you know something, man?
I've got it. All right. I feel intimidated.
But I don't want to do that. So
I do feel intimidated. So if that's what you were going for, I think you nailed it, man. But you need like a tank top and greasy hair.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that would kind of complete.
Don't look real good in a tank top.
Well, I don't think that matters, Bill. I think you just got to commit.
So you gotta be in it to win it.
Exactly. The audience will know if you're half-assing it, man.
Right, they do. They do know when you're phoning it in. I'll tell you what, when you do this show and you do a show that's more blue collar, you get two fundamentally and dynamically different audiences with different, and they have very different priorities and very different opinions about things and different ways of interacting with you. Obviously, my other show, I've got to interact with people on Facebook and all that, which makes me
that was your first problem.
Makes me want to swallow my tongue, but there you go. For normal people, I say normal, if there is such a thing. Facebook is the internet, it has been and always will be. And it's about the only thing I use it for anymore is that show. But then those people are opinionated about like the way trucking is going and the way people talk to each other and all that, and then you come on a show like this and people are very opinionated about technical issues. So I could probably
opinions about things that you love.
Yeah.
Sounds like a people problem.
I mean, it's I don't know. I don't really see it as a problem at all, but you have to put on a different cap. You have to put on a different hat and it's interesting.
Bill, are you code switching?
I am multitasking. I am.
All right.
It's almost like speaking two different languages because you really straddle two completely different ideologically different worlds too.
Yeah. We call that code switching, man.
Cool. I'm going to use that.
Turns out I may be also doing some code switching because, how people in non-English speaking countries such as myself tend to learn English from American media because American media is
Oh my God.
important a lot everywhere. But lately, in the past years, I've been taking a conscious effort to sound less American and more European since
Yes.
I'm in Europe. But whenever I'm talking to American people, I just can't help my brain turns itself into a more American way of
Just a
just
code
pronouncing
switch.
everything because it is
Yep.
code switching because for some reason when you are among people and you are the odd one out in terms of like pronunciation, your brain sort of tries to fit in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're simple creatures, and we like to fit in. It's the human condition. So yeah, it's just a natural artifact of who we are as a species.
It is really cool, though. I mean, I lived in Germany for a few years, and it was interesting how many people you could almost develop an expectation that at least 75% of the people would be able to speak English to you. Now you come over here, your average person
Doesn't even speak English.
hardly speaks English, yeah, let alone any other language, and it just it makes you feel small in a way because being bilingual everywhere else in the world is a normal thing. And then you are at least bilingual, perhaps even more. How many languages do you speak, Norbert?
Well, I speak Hungarian because it's my native language. Ich habe gelernt Deutsch im Grundschule. That was a long time ago. I cannot speak German. Ho studiato un po' di italiano, parlo un po' di italiano because I had to take. What's interesting is that what you call first and second language, over here we just call native language and first foreign language because if you are going to a normal high school, you have to take a second foreign language. So that was Italian for me, and a language that I want to learn but don't really speak is Japanese.
My son speaks Japanese.
日本語勉強日本語話せます yeah, so I mean but yeah, out of all of those I just like languages, but the ones that I can hold a conversation in is just English and my native language.
Okay.
That's the two. Yeah, and the because of that I think the big reason that being bilingual is so common is because people whose first language is not English have a high they're in what's the word, they have incentive to learn English because that's just the default way of communicating to everyone else. You can have like
that's why we never learn a second language.
yeah, you can have a business meeting between a Chinese person and a Dutch person and they will just speak English.
Yeah,
And
So English is kind of the universal language then, in a way, or it's the what do you call it?
I think most people, at least around me, that know a second language know it because their family spoke it at home, not
Right.
because they learned it in school. I think the only time I ever really hear anybody talk about learning a language in school is, oh yeah, I had 4 years of that. I don't remember anything.
Well, they kind of carry through with English though in schools in Europe, though, right? It's see, because over here you might like get introduced to a language in school, and it's usually like either a semester or a 9-week class, and then you're not required to take any more than that. And really, it's never enough for somebody to learn how to speak a second language conversationally. But I feel like in Europe they might carry through a little bit more in terms of English. I don't know, is that true or not?
what do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, like I said, here in the States, you might take a foreign language for a semester, which is like 16 weeks or something like that. And then you're not required to take any foreign language beyond that. Now you can,
Is that in college or in high school?
or in high school, I think.
For me, it required 2 years, so that would have been at least 4 of your 16-week.
So you were required 2 years of okay. That I
then-
don't think that exists here.
And then you could elect to take 2 more years. So you could take up to 4 years. And I think most of the schools around me offer that and require that. But
I wonder if
mean,
that's because of the proximity to, or the more dense.
Nah, you could have taken French.
Really.
Yeah, you could take whatever. I mean, depending on the size of your school, I mean, the languages were just dependent on if you had a fluent teacher on staff. That was pretty much the requirement. But yeah, I mean, down here, obviously, Spanish is going to be what most people take because it's most useful here.
Right. Well, I mean, it's useful everywhere because, I mean, you have a strong Latino, Hispanic workforce all over the country at this
Well,
point.
on top of that, I think,
And-
if I'm not mistaken, if things haven't changed, Spanish is still the #1 mostly spoken language in the world. But I mean, English wins because the dollar, man.
Isn't it Mandarin Chinese?
Is it?
I thought it was.
Ah,
Pop
the
quiz.
reason
What
the reason I think
what country
that
has
it's
the-
still true is because Bad Bunny is the #1 most listened to artist in the world. So maybe not.
Wow.
Him, yes, but maybe not the language thing.
quick pop quiz? What country has the
B.
biggest? Yeah. What country has the biggest Spanish-speaking population? Native Spanish-speaking population,
I don't know.
or maybe just Spanish-speaking?
Brazil.
I think it's the U.S. actually.
No, they're
The US.
Portuguese.
Now they're like it's like a Portuguese sort
Some-
of
Brazilian
Yeah, I read it
Portuguese, as a
somewhere.
matter of fact. Yeah.
But did you say 2 years of language classes throughout all of school?
Yeah, right. Yeah. But that's what Bill
Yeah.
was saying that typically across the pond, it's more.
Yeah, basically over here, I mean, at least in Hungary, there's 8 years of
Right.
elementary or primary
And
school,
that is
and then
quite
and
long
there's,
enough.
Yeah, and there's the 4 years of high school, and basically from year 4 up to the very end, you have language classes every year.
Right.
And if you take English, start English in grade 4, and you do high school as well, you will have English classes every week when you're at school from grade 4 to 12 until you graduate.
Yeah.
So
And I can
that's
see how
really
useful
yeah,
that
the-
is.
Yeah,
That's
language
starkly
classes.
different.
I mean, yeah, I am actually quite shocked that it's not as of a requirement in the US, because over here, I mean, I can see that because, from when you start, when you pick up a language in year 4, you can only choose English or German, I think. And when you when you get to picking up a second foreign language in grade 9, it can be something like Spanish, Italian, French, Russian, things like that. But I mean, German and English. German is quite common in Europe, so I see the reasoning behind those two. But it basically, if your country's language is not one of the most commonly spoken languages in the world, it makes perfect sense to have a requirement for learning another language. I guess I
right,
just
right.
didn't really think about that while I was in school, because I wasn't really I didn't really know many people from English-speaking countries.
And that makes a lot
And now
of
look
sense.
at you.
Yeah, right. I think I think the opposite side of that coin is why we never learn a second language, or why we don't press it as hard as other places, just because American is spoken in so many countries that we just let it go.
Well, we got that neo-nationalism thing going here, where I almost
Careful
feel
now,
like,
careful now.
gosh, yeah, yep, I'm gonna get myself in trouble again. But I think it's true, though. If you push too hard and if we came out and started saying that people in the United States should start learning this language or that language, I feel like you would get some pushback.
Now, I don't even if we were able to scale that mountain and actually win that argument, it wouldn't really matter because nobody speaks that language a lot of times, and you're gonna get by fine with English in this country.
Yeah.
Until, just like programming languages, until you want to use that language to do something constructive for yourself, you're never going to learn it well enough.
Right.
That's the thing, right? Like, you can get it pounded into your brain, but it's never useful to you, and never and never really solidifies until you want to do it. And most people see language classes as I got to do this to get my credits so I can be done with school. or something.
Yeah, like a elective class.
Right. So even if we were to scale that mountain, I don't think people will still be, I don't think people would be using that language anyway. So they forget it, and it kind of ends up being useless.
I think I
What
would use
are
Spanish quite a bit, though.
what's the language choice? So what languages can you pick if you want to learn a language, let's say in school, in high school?
I mean,
It's
it
usually
depends on where you are. I think, like
Yeah.
here, it totally depends on who is fluent and who is teaching.
Spanish and French are going to be your
yeah.
two biggest
Yeah,
ones.
because Mexico, Canada.
Yeah.
Yeah, because while the U.S., I don't even know. I think officially the U.S. doesn't have a single official language.
Correct.
I might be mistaken. Am I
It
right?
depends on
believe
who
that
you
is correct.
ask.
Yeah.
Yeah, well.
So, but at the same time, the U.S. is a very big cultural.
Melting pot.
it's-
You want to use the word
Exactly.
that everybody uses.
It should be that way. Yeah.
So there's a bunch of languages. So yeah, it makes sense to have language classes in a local commonly spoken language.
Yeah, of course.
And I'm thankful for all the multiculturalism that we enjoy nowadays, and it brings so much more color and texture to life in general. I think with the food and the different ways people decorate and the different activities that different cultures bring. I think you can tell when a community has embraced multiculturalism. You just see a little bit more life, I think, in those places.
Kind of depends, I guess. One of the things that I see a lot around here, right, is like tacos, right? The tacos that most people can get are terrible for you. The tacos as they should be, or as they, I guess, once were, right? I guess it doesn't matter who you are, you can make a bad. Has a whole lot of vegetable and everything in it. So you get kind of the wrong idea with what you see a lot of times.
My first wife was Hispanic, and she used to tell me that all the time. They don't make real Mexican food here.
Well, now
I'm
I
like,
wasn't
what?
going that far because I think we need to understand that there's a whole lot of sugar and stuff down there. I mean, the same problem that we're going through, they're going through. So they can make it just as bad. So calling it real anything, but
Well, I mean, she used to say that all this sour cream and cheese. You didn't see you don't see any of that the cheese, maybe a little bit of cheese, but nothing like what
and
we're
that's the
used
thing,
to.
right? It very much depends on what part of Mexico you're from. If that's even the country we're talking about, that means you're having cheese, you're having flour, you're eating more corn, you're eating more whatever. Mexico is quite large, and just like in the U.S., people are very different in the different corners that you can find. And yeah, they'll turn their nose up over green chili versus red chili or something like that, right? Like they're the same.
And it's not hard to imagine that a lot of the tourism culture has kind of spilled into the rest of the country in certain ways too, because a lot of the really popular resorts are down there where people like to go, and of course they're going to make food because Americans like American stuff. They're going to learn how to make things that people like down there, and then that sort of influence is going to work its way outward.
Well, they know what sells. And
Yep.
if it sells, you're gonna make it.
So, and this is
if you ask someone over here in Eastern Europe to name typically American foods, they will probably say the first thing they would probably say is
Burgers.
hamburgers.
I knew it. I knew it.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, maybe also pizza because of things like the New York style pizza. And
I'm a Detroit guy myself. I like the crispy.
It's interesting how New York is famous of its pizza because when you
Bill,
when you
did we
think
touch a nerve?
pizza-
Are you? You just
I've got a lot to
chomping
say
at the-
about pizza.
Oh man, I see.
go
it in
I
ahead.
didn't
your
get this
face.
way from not eating, so.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, so I like the Detroit thing too, but I
Yeah.
think the Chicago thing rules.
Oh
when it-
my God, that's a casserole. Get out of here.
Yeah, but if
you gotta eat your pizza with a fork and a spoon, man, is it even
Both.
pizza?
they've got the one thing that's popular around here in the Midwest is the garbage pizza, where you literally do have to eat it with a spoon.
So,
Because
okay,
it's-
what I've never heard of this. What is
I mean, it's just it's about 8 times more topping than it is crust. So
I'm
the
interested.
crust is not capable of holding it up.
You know,
There's no
honestly,
way to pick it up without it
if
spilling.
if you relax on the salt a little bit, relax on the cheese a little bit, sounds more healthy than your
There is
regular pizza.
nothing relaxing about these garbage pizzas. You have
Well,
got to
that's
be
why they
in
call
it
them
to win it.
garbage.
But I mean, they're just packed full of everything. They're just, I mean, if you're hungry and you want to throw something down your neck,
Yeah.
that's kind of the
Well, I
attitude.
always go with
But pizza
for
and burgers have gotten the same treatment that tacos have gotten, which is they added a ton of fat, added a ton of salt, and added a ton of meat to it, which takes it kind of down the health slalom there. So I mean, you could make probably a pretty healthy pizza and a pretty healthy burger, but why?
Yeah,
We're just gonna pound of bacon, throw it on there.
and they do. By gosh.
Yeah.
But you're right. The Chicago pizzas they can be a little ridiculous depending on where you're getting them from.
Yeah,
But-
I don't get me wrong. I would eat one and I would enjoy the heck out of it. But man, like when I think of pizza, I usually think of either something that's nice and crispy or something that I can fold and just like shove into my face.
And that's the New York style, except
Right.
you need two people to help you hold
Yeah.
it.
Oh, you better believe it.
turns that turns out I know nothing of American pizza because I have no idea about the differences between the different local.
So you're
pizzas. And if you ask me what's the difference between like traditional Italian pizza and American pizza, I would have probably said American pizza tends to have a thicker crust. I mean,
All right.
I'm
just
not
a
sure
thicker
there's any
dough.
such thing as
Yeah.
a quote American pizza.
Yeah, there's regional.
Yeah, that's what I'm
and then
slowly
even within
realizing.
regions, they're fighting each other over why.
Yeah.
Or over what's real and what's not. Real.
Right.
New York style pizza. Across the street, these people.
Oh, there's two very famous. I couldn't name them right now, but there's two very famous places in New York that are in this sort of food battle that's been going on for, I don't know, 100 years or so. But both places have these enormous size slice. I mean, one slice and you're
That's all
done
you
for the
need.
day.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're supposed to walk around and eat this thing.
Well, you're supposed to walk it off. That's the idea, is that you eat 3,000 calories in a single slice, but then you're also walking 10 miles.
Yeah.
So Norbert,
Yeah. So you're walking
There's
it off.
someone,
I have a question
someone
for
I
you,
know
Norbert.
who, yep.
If you had to pick, because I know you've tried them all, a regional pizza in America that you love the best and all the rest are trash, which one would it be?
Well, I always tend to go for pizzas with a thinner crust. So which ones do
No,
we
you
That'd
have
be
to
the
pick.
New
I
York.
can't tell you.
Tend to have-
No. We can't tell him. He just has to guess because that's going to be
Well, is
the pizza that he crowns, and all the rest are terrible.
Oh well. Huh. Okay, I.
You got to get a
know,
little bit lucky here, I guess.
Well,
You just got to
I
pick some random
have-
town in New
The
Mexico.
only
right?
way I download this is to be completely objective. So I'm going to do the scientific way. I've heard about
Google
the New York
search.
pizza secret being no, I've heard about the New York pizza secret being the tap water in New York. Somehow it has just the right
Oh,
chemical
that's interesting.
composition to make the dough really nice.
Mm-hmm.
So scientifically, I will have to say New York pizza, even though I have not been to the US and I have definitely not tried any.
No,
US
take
style
that part out,
pizza
Bill.
in the
Take that
US.
part out. You heard it here first, folks. Norbert hates anything that's not New York style pizza.
Well, because
we're gonna
to
tweet that one out.
everybody everywhere else in the world, all we have is New York and L.A.
Oh, that's true.
Um,
Pineapple on pizza or not, Norbert?
oh God,
I don't hate it.
watch
I
what
like
you
it.
say.
But you will also have to remember that ho studiato italiano, parlo italiano. Or I wanted to say I've been to Italy, but ironically I couldn't suddenly say how to say. I couldn't say I've been to Italy. O stato Italia, maybe. Yeah.
Sounds
so.
good.
Yeah.
But
I don't know four languages.
whenever I see or hear people arguing about food, it's the same. Cuisine is very much like open source and free software.
Oh, you better
You
believe it.
try a recipe. Sorry, yeah, you try
Excellent
a
segue.
recipe and then you change it and you fork it and you publish it and you give it to someone. And if nobody tried things that are not quote unquote traditional, then cuisine would just not move forward at all. The
And
people
everybody
who
thought up to
first,
this point that we weren't talking about open source and we weren't talking
We were
about
getting to the
the
point.
community.
You just had to.
It took
You're
it took 30
welcome,
minutes
folks.
to get here. Yeah, but Norbert put a nice, neat little bow on it, and food is like open.
And like open source, each project or each place has got its one thing that makes it the special experience that it is. Because as you was describing the New York pizza, one of the things about New York pizza that sets it aside is that some of those places have been cultivating the same yeast for 50 years. They'll have a master dough in the refrigeration system, and that is the same yeast cultures that has been
the master
growing.
branch, you mean?
Yeah, exactly.
He did it again. That's twice.
He's
And
so
then,
good
so
at this.
He makes a good point, and then he leaves. Did he leave? Is it just me?
Oh, yeah, you froze up for a second, but he's back. That was the mic drop, wasn't it?
That sure was,
That
man.
just happened.
So do you name the yeast? Like if it's 50 years old, it has to have a name, right?
I mean, it sits in there, and you got to know people. If the power goes out, the first thing these people are thinking about is, I got to make sure that the yeast is okay. That they're thinking about that before they're thinking about anything else. And that's what makes eating a pizza from a place like that so special.
That's why people name their applications. It's why people name their distributions.
Yeah.
It's to set it aside. I mean, do we have heirloom distributions? It's Debian, right?
Yeah.
Debian and Slackware and these Arch and the older ones, right? Like Arch are the ingredients. And yeah, man, that's
And there's rich histories behind all of these projects, at this point.
Yep.
We've been around long enough now.
I should know.
Especially things like Debian. I mean, and it's as rich as you're willing to go back in time and do the research on.
I cap it at 30 minutes. I can't do more than that.
30-minute, boy, you need somebody that talks real fast.
I try to.
Yeah, so I guess we were trying to do a series on self-hosting. And,
yeah, we might as well talk about 5 minutes of that before we
yeah.
have to go.
Right. We got very little time. Do that real quick, and then I've got a lightning round question I want to ask you guys.
All right, Norbert, you've been tinkering more than the rest of us, I think.
Well, I haven't been doing a lot more than what I had last time.
Oh, okay.
I'm slowly just migrating over to Nextcloud. I found that there is no Nextcloud calendar app for Android, but there's a tool called, I found it on F-Droid. It's called Dev5X, I think, or DevX5.
DevX5.
It lets me sync my Nextcloud contacts and calendar to Android, which Android will see as if it was synced from like a Google account. So it integrates into Android nicely. So I can just use any calendar or contacts app that would otherwise be displaying my Google account contacts and events, and it just I can just choose it appears as an account. So I can just keep using the same calendar widget and contacts app and everything that I've been using, just not with the Google account, not with the Google contacts and calendars backend, but by my own Nextcloud, which is nice. And I have been transitioning other things. I started using Nextcloud Notes, for example.
Oh, I love Nextcloud Notes. It's one of my
Yep.
favorite things about Nextcloud.
It has Markdown.
Oh yeah, that's
It's
exactly.
Markdown,
That's my.
hands down, greatest feature.
But-
of
You can
here-
install Nextcloud and install nothing else on top of it and still have
Yep.
Markdown.
So here's the thing about that is that the Markdown in Nextcloud Notes, especially on the web, specifically on the web, does not need a preview function. It has one to make it nice and pretty, but it does not need one, because what happens is, like, whenever you create like the big heading or something like that, it takes the Markdown, but
it gets bigger
also
text.
cranks up the markdown itself, so you do not need to preview it to kind of get an idea of what things are going to look like, because it does that within the markdown itself. And I think that is the best feature. Pretty much every markdown editor I have to do 2 panes, right? Where markdown on this side, preview on this side, so I know what's happening. Not in Nextcloud Notes, which, I mean, that's the killer feature of the notes for me. Is
And
that
the
I
same
only need to
thing,
look
the
at
same
one
effect is
thing.
also working in the Nextcloud Android app. I mean
Yeah.
the Notes, Nextcloud Notes app.
Yeah,
So
that's
it's
beautiful,
great.
man. That's
Yeah.
beautiful. I love
And,
that about Nextcloud.
Yeah, so I'm also moving from Google Photos and Google Drive to over to
Good.
Nextcloud, and
Good.
I have officially cancelled my Google One storage
Even
plan.
better.
Good man.
And I've also started setting up a Samba share. Samba is one of those things that I've always just never really bothered learning, because I didn't really.
There is no learning Samba. You don't learn it. You try to configure it properly
Yeah.
once,
What do you need that for?
and then never touch it again.
Yes, and because I'm on NixOS, basically, I just copied the sample config from the wiki. I changed,
Oh, see, so
changed
you
some.
didn't learn anything.
But I read through it, and it makes sense, because
Uh-huh.
NixOS, when you tell it to do the services.samba.enable equals true, it takes that and it will set up everything it needs in order to make it work. And
Well, but
then
I'm gonna have to
course
get
it-
on
but-
that bandwagon.
Of course, it makes sense when you take somebody else's configuration and then just read through it. I can read through a bash file and be like, "Oh yeah, that makes a whole lot of
yes,
sense."
but it's
Ask
also
me to write
surprisingly.
it.
Yeah, but
It's gonna
it's
take a
also
while.
surprisingly short. I mean, all the Samba config in NixOS.
It should
don't-
be if your configuration is simple. It's when it starts getting complex.
What
that
are you
really-
using Samba for? What do you need Samba for?
Basically, the stuff that I want to put on Nextcloud is mostly photos and stuff, and other files that I would usually want to access wherever I am on my phone. But the Samba share is for larger files that I would want to have access on my Windows desktop, like media files.
On your okay, I was
So,
just gonna
yes, it
say
makes sense that
syncing exists.
with Windows, if it's got to
Yeah.
be with Windows, it's probably
But you
No,
can
I
Nextcloud
just-
sync. You can do
Yeah.
that.
yeah, I know. I'm still learning. For
Oh,
now, I'm happy.
I've never tried the
Samba
desktop app
Samba
for
was
Windows.
surprisingly easy to set up.
You pick a directory and it syncs it.
Yeah.
That-
I use it on
Basically,
here.
I have very simple needs when it comes. I just want to be able to hook up a external hard drive to my server, and just point a share to it, and I can just access the drive on any of my computers, and it's really nice.
That's your one advantage with Samba is that you'd be able to set that up and like basically any operating system can just access it.
The other day, Leo, you mentioned on Telegram something about a half-broken Samba config being
Oh yeah.
and
'Cause you had a power outage,
and-
right? Like some.
yeah, I had a power outage yesterday, and all my computers were running.
Yikes.
And that's what I mean, like, little weird surges and stuff like that. That's really where the data corruption comes from these days. The
Yeah,
hardware's
and then
pretty
it
good.
came
It's
back
not-
for like 5 seconds and went away again for like
right.
half an hour.
So my what I was telling Norbert at that point was, if Samba ever dies or is misbehaving for some reason, you'll always have it in the back of your head that, was it the power surge? Did it mess with the configuration or?
I mean, how
something?
can it? I mean, I'm saying that, but
stuff
I
in the buffer doesn't get saved correctly because the stuff in the buffer is corrupted because of the power surge.
Well, I would argue
Yeah,
anytime
when
you're
the surge
you're
happened, I
moving
basically had no files put in that
Right, so
directory
you're-
yet. So
You're
yeah,
probably fine, but I
Yeah.
mean, it's at least for me, it's always back there.
okay. Yeah.
Get
when
a
the power came
UPS.
back and went away for the second
That
time, I
helps.
just unplugged everything and waited.
yeah.
That's smart. That's what I
And-
do because we have large electrical storms here. Lots of lightning and stuff. Happens a lot, and when it gets bad, I'm like, you know what? We're just shutting her down for today and unplugging everything.
It's probably not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
I rely
blackout
on this
was a
UPS. I've got
friendly.
it quite a
It
bit.
was-
See, but you could unplug that during the storm. Unplug the UPS from the wall. It'll beep at you, but I mean, you
Yeah.
would still be safe, and it would save your UPS. You wouldn't have to replace the It might take the surge, but
By the time I'd get done shutting down all these things elegantly to unplug that UPS, the storm would be over with.
Well, but that's what I mean. Like, don't even shut anything down. Just use the 30 to 45 minutes that you have on the UPS.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
To just ride out the storm and then plug her back in, and you're good to go.
And that's probably not a bad idea for conditioning the battery, too.
Exactly. A battery at full charge all the time is going to
Right.
degrade faster than one sitting in the middle or being used.
Yeah, that's always been the case.
I'm starting to think maybe I would even be fine with like a 10-minute or 5-minute UPS. Is there any way to have a UPS to send a shutdown signal to a Linux system?
Oh, yes, sort of, but not really. The UPS doesn't necessarily have to do it. When your non-battery powered devices detect they're running on battery, you can set up that to be the trigger to shut something down. So, the UPS doesn't necessarily send this.
Maybe like an Ansible script that's tied to
just
home
a simple
assistant
bash
or something.
script, yeah. Will do. And just have the script listening for that trigger. On battery power, give it 1 minute and then shut it down, right? So that you have a little bit of buffer time to like, oh God, I kicked the thing out of the plug. That's why it's on battery power now. So let me just plug it back in. You've got a little bit of buffer time. You don't want it to immediately go down, especially when mistakes happen.
But then I'd have to be here physically I would have to physically be here to power cycle this stuff back on.
Well, yes, but you want it that way, right?
Yeah.
What if the electrical storm lasts for 2 hours, right? It's just best for it to be off and not in danger.
It would be an interesting challenge for somebody like me where I'm only here on the weekend, and then I got to make sure this Mintcast website is up all week long.
Yeah, well, that's what a jump box is good for, right? I mean, a little Raspberry Pi that you can SSH into, that you can use to SSH into everything else, or just use Tailscale, right? I mean, that kind of removes the need.
Yeah.
And so, if one box is up and one is misbehaving, but yet there's still communication, you can maybe get past whatever's hanging it up, and then maybe give it a reboot or a whatever. But other than that, like if it's down, you have Wake on LAN and stuff like that as well. Some of the even regular consumer stuff has the ability to do Wake on LAN. So maybe that would help solve the problem when you're on the road.
Yeah, maybe I'll have to look into that.
Yeah.
It has not been a problem in real world application yet.
But if we know anything, it will be one day.
Yeah, things tend to change. And I don't know. I feel like they're sort of fixing the infrastructure, the electrical infrastructure. Around here they are. They've put up a lot of new towers and things like that.
That's good.
And it's cut down on it because we were going through about a 10-year period of time there where it just every time the wind would blow somebody would get power knocked out, and it was all because the grid was built when people
100 years ago?
Yeah, I mean back when people would be outside all day long and not inside running.
When grounding wasn't even a requirement?
Right, yeah, exactly. In fact, my parents' house down the street is not even wired up for it, so.
Yeah.
But anyway, I guess we better wrap it up then.
All right, okay, so you threatened us with a question.
Yeah, I did. Okay, here's a lightning round question, and folks, I did nothing to prepare my co-hosts for this, but I posed
this one
to
is
you.
C. I'm choosing C on this one.
Well, there is no C. There's no A or B either.
Well, then there's
Chew
a C.
on that. Norbert, what is Linux?
He's going to say it.
Kernel.
I knew it. I knew he was going to say it. That's what I was going to say.
Is it just
No,
the
Linux
kernel?
is a way of life. It's a way of life.
Oh,
I think he thought that's the answer I was looking for.
bold.
Yeah. What do you think, Leo? What is Linux? What is Linux to you?
I think technically, Linux is the kernel, but I mean, closer to what Norbert said, I think Linux has become a community of mostly free and open source stuff, sprinkled in with a whole lot of proprietary stuff that makes a huge ecosystem. So the answer is Linux is an ecosystem.
Yeah.
the proprietary stuff being the firmware that the hardware is using, and also some software that's running on top of your OS.
Of
So
course,
it's really just a
it's
sandwich.
all the way up the
It's a
stack.
sandwich. No, it's a sandwich where the bread is proprietary and the filling is open source.
It can be.
Because
Yeah.
you have proprietary firmware, open source operating system, and then some proprietary you are running.
Well, no, okay, so that's changing, right? Because System 76 is doing the core boot stuff, which is all open, and then you have the Libra kernel that has all of the proprietary bits stripped out. And if you just follow what is free and open source, then you could
You could,
have
you
a
could have a
free stack.
completely open source stack from top to bottom.
Is the
But does
framework
that
motherboard?
fundamentally change the dynamic of Linux though? Is this thing that is completely open source from top to bottom, is that more Linux than my Archbox over here where I'm running?
No.
Yeah.
Linux is Linux no matter how you use it. If you just take the Linux kernel and then everything else is proprietary on top of that, still Linux. Why would you want it any other way? Why would you want to close Linux off to software that people would need to migrate to Linux?
Okay. So then does it make sense? Does the argument or the desire to want to make Linux more accessible, and well, not accessible, more palatable to normal people who are expecting consumer grade devices, does it make sense to desire that kind of a thing? Did that make sense? Does it make sense to want Linux to be something that is available the same way Windows or iOS is, where you can go into Best Buy and Walmart and see machines sitting on the shelf, and then a normal person can take this home and have the expectation that they'll have access to all the tools and software that they're
So-
used to using?
What I heard was, do you want Linux to be good?
Well, because
Yeah.
my point is that in order to create something like that, you would, in effect, be removing the things that brought people like us to Linux to begin with. You would essentially
I don't think it's mutually exclusive. I don't think by adding some of that optional stuff that you would also remove like the privacy respecting stuff, right?
But don't you think that the focus
people-
would shift?
No. I think the people that work on Linux for the love of privacy, for the love of openness, for the love of the freedom, will not stop. They're just going to keep doing what they're doing. This is a modified version of how come you keep making the same software and just calling it different names and different groups of people working on it. It's because you have the freedom to do
Yeah.
so. And so by commercial companies coming in and adding a bunch of proprietary bits on top of Linux, so that is the beauty of Linux. It is beautiful because you can do that, not in spite of it.
Right. But do you think maybe that if all of a sudden we lived in a world where you could go and buy a machine and you could install Pro Tools on it and Appleton and all the really gold standard software packages, and now all of a sudden everybody is installing that stuff and using it, and there's no more excitement and focus on things like Kden Live and projects
why would
like
there
that.
not be? Why would there not be? Because Kden Live works on Windows, and all of those things already work on Windows. And guess what I use on Windows? Kden
What?
Live. I
Ah.
can use DaVinci Resolve. It's free, but I don't because I prefer open stuff. And the people that are developing it wouldn't just decide to, well, I guess I better go apply for a job at DaVinci. They don't, because the open stuff is there because people love the openness of it, not because they're winning or something.
Yeah.
There is no winning in that.
I'd like to think that was true. I don't know. I worry that what little resources that are out there, and we're going to be covering.
But here comes the question. You're about to get to the point of people need to consolidate and work on one open source project so that one can become really, really good and compete with the other ones, instead of having all of the other different, like Olive and OpenShot and Kdenlive. Those guys should come together. No. The power of Linux is in its diversity, going all the way back to what we said about food earlier. The diversity is what makes it amazing, not that it is as good as DaVinci Resolve. That's just icing on the cake. But it existing and the people working on it, that's what's beautiful.
So there you have it, folks. We could have all these wonderful things and still have all of the things that we love about Linux.
You can have your cake and eat it too.
Isn't that something? What do you think, Norbert?
I got a little passionate there. Sorry.
Hey.
Well, but as far as I know, well, I was going to say that I've heard of Kdenlive being used in a professional setting, but I'm not really sure if maybe I'm mixing it up with something. But if something like Kdenlive is used by someone in a professional setting, I would be interested to know. But also, whenever I hear about Linux and professional video editing software, I always think about the animation industry. The Linux workstations are just the standard in the animation industry. Period.
That is true.
Yeah, recently there were
Pixar,
news about DreamWorks open sourcing their engine, some of the software. Pixar is also using Linux workstations for editing.
Oh,
I think they'd be using CentOS. Not sure what they use now.
Yeah, the reverse of what I said before is true. DaVinci Resolve runs just fine on Linux, but yet somehow
I think,
the
Yeah.
Kdenlive developers are still developing Kdenlive. Why didn't they stop? It's
Right.
gonna keep going.
It's a good point. Let us know what you think, folks. Email the show, linuxotc@proton.me. You can comment directly on the website, linuxotc.org. Send us an email or hit us up on the socials. Oh, yeah, we got a Discord, a Mastodon, and a Twitter now. And the shows will be automatically announced on all three of those things.
Bill, why don't we have a Facebook?
Well, because nobody would use it.
Somebody would.
I think Mitcast has got one, and I don't know if anybody's been on it.
Poor Joe. He's the only one manning it, man. And
I think it's still got the old
he,
Mitcast symbol on it too.
Yeah. Is he manning it?
I don't think he's thrown the little hint out there like several times. Yeah, Bill, I was thinking about making you a admin on the Facebook page.
Well, when he makes you an admin on that Facebook page, you just spin up Linux OTC too.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
I don't blame anybody for not using it.
I just throw the idea of maybe a Telegram group, which I think is a more, well, at least in my experience, Linuxy folks tend to gather on Telegram more than on Discord.
Yeah, I was really hoping to know kind of organically where a community was going to get spun
You're not
up.
gonna like the answer. It's gonna be WhatsApp.
I don't have that, and I'm not gonna get it. So that'll be all you guys all day long. So
Says the guy that
you know
has a
what,
Facebook
folk?
account.
Oh gosh, I think I got 3, but we're not gonna get into that.
Triple.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah. No, I had a Facebook account because I was back in school in 2004 when it was called the Facebook, and I actually
Woof.
set
Yeah.
up an account
Well,
back then
yeah,
when you had to be in
we all
college to
did.
get one.
we all did.
So, all right, folks, we'll catch you in 2 weeks. Until then, I've been Bill.
I've been Norbert.
And I'm still Leo. I will continue to be.
Right. I listen to too many British podcasts.
I think so.